Act 1. The Incident. It was Easter Sunday, March 30th, 1975. Children were laughing, hunting for Easter eggs in the front yard. Inside the modest two-story home in Hamilton, Ohio, a mother was preparing sloppy joes for dinner, and a family of 11 had gathered to celebrate. It should have been a day of joy, of resurrection, of peace, but within minutes, it became a scene of horror so profound it would be etched into history as one of the deadliest family massacres in America. At approximately 4 p.m., 41-year-old James Ruppert, quiet, unemployed, and bitter, descended from his room armed with 4 guns: a .357 Magnum, 2 .22 caliber handguns, and a .22 rifle. In a calculated rampage that lasted no more than 5 minutes, he gunned down his mother, brother, sister-in-law, and their 8 children. Not a single member of the household was spared. 11 lives were wiped out with 44 bullets. And the man who fired them, he didn't flee. He sat in the blood-soaked silence for 3 hours before calling the police. When officers arrived, they were greeted at the door by a man who looked nothing like a mass murderer. Small in stature, quiet, wearing thick-rimmed glasses, James didn't fit the monster they were expecting. But what they found inside defied even their darkest imaginations. Act 2. Timeline of Discovery. The morning of the massacre had begun normally. Charity Ruppert, James's 65-year-old mother, invited her elder son Leonard Jr. and his family for Easter dinner. 8 children, from 17-year-old Leonard III down to 4-year-old John, filled the house with life. The adults cooked in the kitchen, laughter echoed, but beneath the surface, something was breaking. James had spent the night before drinking heavily at a local bar, confessing to a bartender that his mother was threatening to kick him out for not paying rent. He said ominously, "I have to find a way to fix this." He returned home late, slept in, and woke up to the noise of a happy family. A normal Easter, but normal wasn't enough for James, not anymore. After a brief exchange with his brother about a broken-down Volkswagen, a remark James took as a personal insult, he snapped. In his mind, this wasn't just a holiday gathering. It was an ambush of reminders. Reminders of everything he wasn't, everything he had failed to become. By 6 p.m., every member of the family was dead. 3 hours later, he calmly called 911. "There's been a shooting," he said. Act 3. The Victims and Their Life. The Ruppert family wasn't rich or famous. They were, by all appearances, a typical working-class family. Leonard Ruppert Jr., the eldest son, had done everything right. He'd earned a degree in engineering, secured a steady job with General Electric, married a woman named Alma, who happened to be James's former girlfriend, and raised 8 children in a stable home. Leonard was the favored child, the golden son. Charity, the family matriarch, had always made it clear who her favorite was. James, the younger son, was the quiet one, the unwanted one, the mistake. She reportedly told him often that she wished he had been born a girl. James had spent his life in Leonard's shadow, ridiculed at home, bullied at school, and left with deep psychological scars. Despite their differences, the Rupperts still gathered as a family. The children were thriving, intelligent, kind, full of promise. Teresa was only 9, John just 4. They had Easter baskets, school dreams, summer plans. But all of that vanished in 5 minutes. The massacre didn't just end 11 lives. It shattered a community and exposed the raw horror that can hide inside an unassuming home. Act 4. Crime Scene Breakdown. When the first officers stepped into 635 Minor Avenue, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The air was heavy with silence and death. Blood covered the floors so thoroughly it dripped through the wooden boards and into the basement. The kitchen, the living room, even the hallway. Each room was a grave. 11 bodies sprawled across 2 floors. No signs of a struggle, no broken furniture, just one tipped-over trash can. The forensic nightmare revealed something chilling. This wasn't a panicked act. It was systematic. James fired 44 rounds. 40 of them hit their targets. He didn't stop after the first shot. He returned to shoot each victim again, many in the head, ensuring death. The children weren't spared. They were executed just as efficiently as the adults. James had brought 4 weapons. That wasn't spontaneous rage. That was premeditated slaughter. The placement of the bodies, the pattern of the gunshots, the calm demeanor when police arrived. It all pointed to a man who knew exactly what he was doing. Detectives searched his room. Inside, they found ammunition boxes, practice targets, and handwritten notes. Not about the family, about his own failures, about rejection, about being invisible. And one more note, questions about silencer attachments. The implication? James had considered ways to make the killing quieter. Act 5. Suspicion and Lies. James Ruppert said almost nothing to investigators. He didn't resist arrest. He didn't confess. He just waited. The media called him the quiet killer. Neighbors were stunned. They described him as polite, soft-spoken, the kind of man who'd help you carry groceries. But behind that calm surface was a storm decades in the making. Why did he do it? James had no job, no friends, no future. His mother threatened to evict him. His brother had stolen the girl he once loved. His family pitied him, or worse, ignored him. To the world, James was the failure of the family, but in his mind, he was the victim. Some said it was a psychotic break. Others said it was pure revenge. And then there were the financial whispers. If his mother and brother were gone, James stood to inherit over $300,000 in property and life insurance. Was this madness, or was it strategy disguised as insanity? James's legal team wasted no time. They pleaded insanity, claimed he suffered from delusions, that the abuse he endured as a child had warped his mind permanently. 2 psychiatrists agreed James was incapable of understanding his actions. But prosecutors saw through the act. They pointed out that he had asked about gun silencers, trained at a firing range, and waited for church bells to begin ringing, masking the sound of gunfire. They said this wasn't delusion, it was methodical, and they weren't done yet. Act 6, the turning point. James was initially tried in 1975. 3 judges heard the case. 2 found him sane and guilty of 11 counts of aggravated murder. The 3rd found him insane. The confusion over whether unanimity was required led to a mistrial. In 1982, after years of legal battles, a new trial was held. The prosecution came back stronger. They brought 29 witnesses, 200 pieces of evidence. They painted James as a bitter, calculating man who chose Easter, the one day his entire family would be together, to commit the crime. They noted how he picked the time of the church bells, ensuring neighbors wouldn't hear the shots. They highlighted how James sat with the bodies for 3 hours, not in shock, but calculating his next move. The defense pushed the insanity angle again, even bringing in a Harvard psychiatrist who said that if more people had been in the house, James likely would have killed them too. They argued his motive wasn't money, it was years of emotional torture, but the court didn't buy it this time. James Ruppert was convicted again. He was sentenced to 11 consecutive life sentences, no chance of parole, and yet the story wasn't over. Because even after justice, the ghosts of Easter Sunday 1975 continued to haunt everyone who had ever known the Rupperts. Act 7, Psychology and Motive. What kind of mind calmly reloads a revolver to kill his own nieces and nephews? James Ruppert wasn't a stranger to his victims. He wasn't an outsider. He was their uncle, their brother, their son. Yet, in under 5 minutes, he turned a family celebration into the bloodiest family massacre in American history. Psychiatrists called him paranoid, delusional, said years of emotional neglect, abuse from his brother, and rejection from his mother had created a volcano of resentment. He wasn't just ignored, he was humiliated, beaten down by comparison, left behind. Some said the moment his brother married Alma, the woman James once loved, something broke inside him. That was the final betrayal. His hatred wasn't sudden, it fermented over decades. But was he insane, or just tired of being invisible? Prosecutors argued James wasn't psychotic, he was strategic. He knew when to strike. He timed it with the church bells. He brought 4 guns, He shot every person multiple times and then sat among their corpses for 3 hours. When asked why he didn't kill himself, James said it was a mortal sin. Even after committing the ultimate atrocity, he still feared what came after. And maybe that's the most disturbing part of all. James Ruppert knew right from wrong. He just didn't care anymore. Act 8. Aftermath and emotional echo. James Ruppert died in prison in 2022 at the age of 88 after serving nearly 5 decades behind bars. He never showed remorse, never spoke publicly, and never faced the families left behind. 11 lives erased in minutes. The youngest was 4, the oldest just 47. The town of Hamilton, Ohio never forgot. The house was cleaned and carpeted, rented to a family who didn't know its past. They moved out, claiming to hear voices and cries in the night. Today, the home still stands, a place where Easter joy once echoed, now remembered for the worst family massacre in U.S. history. A book was written decades later, The Easter Sunday Massacre, a prosecutor's diary, based on the handwritten notes of the lead prosecutor, his daughter-in-law piecing together a legacy of justice from her father-in-law's words. And for Alma's mother, who lost her daughter and 8 grandchildren, the pain never faded. Her tombstone reads, preceded by 8 grandchildren. This case isn't just about James Ruppert. It's about what happens when silence becomes rot, when the ignored finally scream back with bullets. So what do you think? Was this the act of a broken man, or a bitter one who finally decided to destroy the world that had forgotten him? This wasn't just a crime. It was a message.